Morning, everyone. Welcome all to the Wipro booth at Mobile World Congress 2026 in Barcelona. I am delighted to have Menaka Sundar with us here today. Menaka is the Vice President of Tech and Architecture, supporting some of their most strategic customers, and a former coworker and a very dear friend. So thank you for joining us today, Menaka.
Thank you, Namrata, for having us here. Yeah, for having me here.
Excellent. So how's the conference going for you?
Well, it doesn't feel like it's day one, right? I mean, it's like we have meeting many customers, many partners. We've been walking around, looking at innovation, and we will be like all these ideas that comes to our mind, right? Like we come across something. Oh my God! When we go back, this is what we're going to follow through. So it's mind blowing.
I love how this conference
Yeah,
really gets our creative and our innovative juices going.
yeah.
So obviously AI is the flavor of the season, and I've been to MWC many times, and always there's a big theme. I see AI this year omnipresent. And you and I have been in the AI space for a while, back before it was such a big thing. And AI started as cloud native. But what we are seeing now is more and more customers are looking at a hybrid strategy for AI deployments to really get the outcomes they're seeking. Why do you think this fundamental shift has happened?
Yeah, think about it this way, right? So people were doing a lot of POC projects at the beginning, right? And then now it's getting very serious that the businesses are asking for the returns of investments as well. And if you look at AI, it's going to sit everywhere. It's going to sit in cloud. You're going to do inferencing. You're going to sit in data centers. You're going to look in co-locations. It's going to be at near edge. It's going to be in far edge. It's going to be running on every device that you and I will be carrying, from physical devices to handheld devices, right? So it's not going to be happening in one common place and then distributed, right? It's going to be happening across the board. So because it is so heterogeneous in nature, there's only one way of doing it. The computing has to be very heterogeneous in nature. So cloud means it's centralized. Heterogeneity leads to hybrid. So that is why we believe the biggest workload ideal for being a hybrid is the AI workloads. It's impossible for you to run everything from a centralized cluster. Everything has to be done inferenced at the edge, close to the customer, giving you out that experience. Yeah.
And I think this is where some of the regulations that are coming up also play a role in our customers with their distributed supply chains, their global innovation centers, as they're defining their AI strategy.
100%. See, we define our architecture based on there are many ways you can do. Like, for example, we have customers who build frontier models, okay? So their day in and day out as a frontier model provider is to build those training capabilities in large, massive, high performance computing clusters. And we have 6 out of 10 high performance computing clusters across the world. So we have that experience of building that clusters, like with our great frontier model provider. And we also have enterprises who are actually building platforms for their lines of businesses. So they go way up to the platform, they have governance, they have model card building, they have all of that. But then they outsource those platform as a service to their lines of businesses, right? And then we also have business units who doesn't have technical people. All they want is a quicker outcome. So we have the turnkey solutions that is required for them. So when you bring all of this together, then it's diversification of hardware, it's diversification of technology. The next quick problem is how we're going to manage the infrastructure as one pane of glass. How am I going to do governance? How am I going to do data sovereignty? How am I going to do security? How am I going to onboard, offload people? How am I going to make sure my data mobility is there? So everything becomes an operational nightmare. So I really think our partnership is to really use our technology to simplify that operational nightmare that AI is creating for us today. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And doing all of this while earning the trust,
Of course. Yeah.
being responsible.
Yeah.
And Wipro, for our shared customers, are doing everything that's needed, building value propositions for long-term value
Yes.
that the customers can continue to derive, right? Because we are in a very fluid space right now.
100%.
Architecture today,
It's
it's going to evolve.
think about it this way, right? Every customer is also a service provider in some way to someone else, right? So if I have a telco customer, it's not just telcos, like even the banks, universities. We in fact have lot more sovereign customers that the universities are building a sovereign platform for the state and local where they could be serving the end colleges to come in and run AI testing on the sovereign AI platform. So it's sovereign is real. So that brings that gravity for data to be like, I can't just force them on one norm versus the other norm. It has to be flexible, it has to be sovereign, and it has to scale. Period.
Absolutely. With minimal bias.
With
So
minimal-
anyway,
yes, yes.
we've talked about it. I want to move on to the next topic. And this is something obviously really close to both of us, but
Yes.
also I say it's on everybody's mind, and that is semiconductors,
Oh,
right? And we both know
baby.
exactly. We both
Yeah.
know the complexity of designing a chip, bringing a chip to market,
Yes.
right? Especially during the front end design phase,
Yes.
the EDA workloads that are there,
Yes.
their high performance compute requirements for
100%.
EDA
Yeah.
workloads, the large terabytes of those GDS2 files, and all of that, right?
That's what EDA is all about, right? It's those small little files of designs and parallel processing of these designs of files, right? And I mean, like you and I built out some of this visionary work, but then it's the reality of that. If you look at it, is like the biggest complex thing in EDA is from the design all the way to tape out to simulation and testing, all the flow that comes in between. They have a shorter time to release the chip, and then they have to do it again in another 8 months because the life cycle of a chip, as we all know, is less than 18 months. Because that is what keeps the semiconductor companies alive, because they need to keep building those incremental
The derivatives.
the derivatives, right? So for that, it's very much think about their crunched, margin play that they have to play, right? I mean, the IP is expensive. The design IPs, we all know that it's super expensive. And at the end of the day, they can't have massive infrastructure sitting there ideal because they're going to be looking at those inflection points, right? Hey, I'm going to be doing design in the month of February, so I have this inflection point. So it's never a plateau. It's always those inflection points. So the hardware that we give for EDA design, the high performance computing hardware, runs on our Cray XT platform. It is the exact same hardware that's also available in GreenLake as a service. Okay, so the challenge in the cloud, and it's a lesson learned for us as well, is like all the EDA data, 90% of the EDA data sits in the premise. Okay, it sits with the design. It sits very close to the design. You can't really think of a smarter architecture model taking petabytes of data, putting it in the cloud, and again taking the same petabyte of data and bringing it back. Like, what are we trying to solve here, right? It's the ridiculous architectural design. If I have to take it and bring it back, forget ingress, egress. It doesn't solve any problem. So because we have a same platform, which is a Cray XT platform, which we run the high performance computing, and it's available in GreenLake as a service, you literally get the benefits of agility, you get the benefit of the burst, you get the benefit of not having to put in your capex but put it on your opex. So you get the business benefit as well as the technology benefits if you're able to run it as a GreenLake service than centralizing it on a public cloud, because the data gravity just not justify the architecture.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
And, as Wipro, we have a very strong semiconductor
Yeah.
chip design practice,
Yeah.
right? We design chips and derivatives for some of the most marquee names in the
Yes.
industry.
Yes.
So everything you said about the way HP helps our customers
Yeah.
with on-demand compute,
Yes.
right? With cost predictability built in.
Yes.
is much appreciated.
Because if you look at our high performance computing systems, extremely on the higher end of the computing, on the higher end of cost as well. So obviously, this is not a workload that you can put it on general purpose compute and then take, like, if you submit a job, you're expecting it to be done in a certain SLA of time and an hour or whatever to finish. You can't put it on a general purpose compute and say, you know what, I'm just going to optimize it. The computing horsepower has to be there for it to run and complete the jobs. Because if one job delays, the next job delays, the next job. And then what happens? Your tape out gets delayed. So there's a ripple effect for that. So you cannot compromise on the performance of the compute. What you will need is you also can't hold up this computing because you need capacity on demand. The ideal way to do this is burst, but the right way to do the burst is to burst it on demand on GreenLake because it provides the same platform and it sits next to the CapEx and you can burst it as and when needed and give the commercial benefits of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about AI Factory.
Here
So-
it is here again.
So,
Did you design these questions? Just, yeah.
I read your mind. I read your mind.
My mind, yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously, AI Factory is not just GPU clusters.
No.
It's a very well thought out architectural
Yes.
idea
Yeah.
that is being implemented by our customers.
Yes.
What is your approach towards AI Factory?
So, what is a factory? A factory is the diversifications of different equipments, right? AI factory is the same thing. There's no one GPU, there's one family. So, you're going to have Hoppers, you're going to have Blackwells, you're going to have things like virtualized GPUs that NVIDIA is going to be announcing, which is RTX 4000 or RTX 6000. So, it's the diversifications of GPUs and also several other alternatives that's coming to the market, right? In addition to what we all generally have. So AI Factory is really bringing that unification of processing across the different families, but providing multi-tenancy, providing this unified security, providing the layers of abstraction from this core computing. So anytime you run higher value services, you're abstracted away from what's underneath, right? So factory to us is really bringing all these capabilities together and using our Morpheus, because we leverage Morpheus as a control plane. The reason for using Morpheus as a control plane is because you abstract away from the hardware. You're 3 layers above the core hardware and the core processing. So tomorrow you have to flip out one GPU with another GPU. Your actual AI workload that sits on the tier 4 or tier 3 is not really affected because you're abstracted out. And also Morpheus is a way for us to integrate with non-AI workloads. At some point, AI is not a silo. It has to interface with IT systems. You have a supply chain running in SAP, you have CRM applications. It needs to pull that data. It needs to give intelligence back to those applications. So IT and AI are not two different silos. You need to look at it as cohesive computing. You need to bring those two systems together. And Morpheus is a way for us to orchestrate these two capabilities, also abstracting away from this generational innovations that's happening with the GPUs. So we are not tied back to the hardware that migrations and upgrades becomes a nightmare. And Namrata, this is the secret sauce, right? But there's still a connecting glue, which is customers need solutions. And we need your partnership to stitch our IP and give them the solution. Because at the end of the day, I'm not here to give my customers 50 different products and have them figure it out. They need business outcomes, time to market, and time to value. So we look for this partnership to really give that time to market and time to value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Customers need solutions. Customers need those solutions to be supported.
Yeah.
And customers need those solutions to continue evolving
Yeah.
based on their business needs. So I'm going to wrap it up. I have one last question for you. If you were advising a CIO right now,
Yeah.
what would be your one piece of advice?
So, Namrata, just about my career, right? I mean, I was in the cloud from the day cloud started. So 15, 18 years, I've worked at a lot massive cloud companies. So I have advised my customers literally like 10 years ago just close your eyes and go cloud. Just everything cloud first. If you don't do cloud, you're missing out on everything. So now, my sanity 15 years down the road, what I would advise my customers, be cloud smart. We still love cloud for the agility, for the ease of use and everything else. But be cloud smart. Don't be cloud first, because the workload placement groups have changed. Okay. And it fits in many different ways. Even a phone and a computer has to run agents right now for us. So be cloud smart and let the workload characteristics define where that workload should sit. It could sit in the edge, it could sit in cloud, it could sit on a burst capacity. Like I told you, like EDA is an excellent example of a workload. It does not make sense to ship petabytes of data just for you to bring the petabytes of data back. So be workload smart and be cloud smart.
Excellent, excellent. And I'm just going to add on top of that, look for transformations that and measure those from the perspective of business outcomes and not just a simplistic ROI calculator.
100%. Certain things you cannot put a dollar value next to a certain number.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, this has been great. And thank you so much for stopping by, and loved our conversation, and hope you have a great conference.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for hosting us. And again, I really look for transformation, and I really think our partnership has a unique position in the market. Thank you.